Welcome back to the Garden State Outdoors and Podcast presented by Boondocks Hunting. I'm your host, Mike Nyitray.
I'm Peyton Smith.
And welcome back, everyone. It's been 2 weeks. We didn't record last week. Things just got a little busy, hectic for us. Peyton had his cough and everything like that. So we took the week off. A little bit to catch up on. Peyton went down Maryland the last time we spoke for Thanksgiving, and he was there roughly for about a week, I would say.
Closer to probably like 10 days down there, like from Tuesday to the next Sunday. So good bit of time down there.
Now, last we're talking about hunting pressure deer. Now you're able to, correct me if I'm wrong, get on a piece that wasn't pressured really at all, but you didn't get the action that I guess you were probably looking for.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. So I went and hunted this piece in Maryland. And Maryland does this pretty limited public land, so they, especially in central Maryland. So there's a lot of places where the access is kind of limited. You have to get like a special permit. There's like locked gates. Where you have to get the gate code and check in. I guess to try to kind of lower the pressure all around. So I got into this piece that didn't seem like it was hunted super hard. I guess there were people walking dogs down and through there, but like we've talked before, when you have high deer density, like in New Jersey and Maryland, I just don't see it as much of a factor. I grew up seeing deer, in backyards, with people's dog everywhere, just in neighborhoods and stuff, backing up to parkland and stuff. And, maybe it is a different animal when you talk about, places where you can hunt those deer also, it definitely adds a wrinkle. But, light traffic in a state with high population densities, everywhere you see on the Northeast, I think they could probably tell the difference, is what I'm getting at. But anyway, I got in, hunted that place all day Wednesday, sat from sunrise to sunset, moved spots around lunch, and my buddy met me there in the evening and ended up sitting about where I sat in the morning. He saw a couple of deer, had one little buck respond to a grunt call that he lost sight of. It's like chest high grass everywhere and real thick. Saw some does, but where I was sitting, I thought I could see a long way and just didn't see a deer all day, which is pretty surprising. I had hunted Maryland. I think it was the week Saturday before that Friday before that. Hunted all day on a piece of private that I grew up hunting with my dad, and sat all day and didn't see. It was hot. Didn't see a deer there then either, and then finally hunted. I guess the opening day of gun season was that Saturday after Thanksgiving. Hunted the evening and got along sitting then too, and shot an antlerless deer. Right, I guess it's considered antlerless. It's under the broken off and small meat buck at last light with the slug gun. But we and Mike were just talking. It's like if you do enough sitting, and as much as we have, I mean, I think we're both close to hunt 40. It's it's like, yes, I've had a great season. I've been very lucky. Got a great buck, a great bear. But, there's also 20 other sits since then. Where it's like, you're sitting all day, you're getting up early. Where it's like, what, I gotta get that confidence check. I haven't shot a deer with a slug gun, I think, since I don't know, 6 years or so. So, and I don't think a deer's ever been shot with this gun. So I was excited, and it's like what we said, what gets your heart pumping. So, this little buck that I hadn't, after not seeing a deer and God knows how many hunts over 2 states, and it got my heart pumping. So, a good shot on it. Surprising thing is even with a gun, you often think it's like, oh, well, that'll drop in the tracks. But this deer ran further than the bear and the buck I shot this year combined with my bow. It ran close to 150 yards, and it was a perfect shot. Field dress, kind of do like the necrops deer or whatever that's called. I think ranch fairy. That's what ranch fairy calls it. And shredded, just absolutely shredded. Good blood, but it just got the wind at his back or something, and he took off. Couldn't believe it, but was it was a great hunt. It's good to get more meat in the freezer. I think I've find myself only eating wild game meat for the foreseeable future, which is nice. That's always been a goal of mine. So it's been nice to actually be able to achieve that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's exactly like you said, whatever gets the heart pumping. And you went down there and you had a goal in mind to really, you said it, you're going to kill anything. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever walks by, you're sending it. And it's just like you said, I just completed today hunt number 43. 43 hunts. Sent one arrow so far this season. But more of, just a lot of patience. And this goes back to what I tell people, especially when I try to teach new hunters, is I'm never the biggest person for having the most successful season in the world as your first hunting. When you're getting, especially the older you are, right? If you're as a kid, you know what, that's whatever, right? But especially if you're jumping in at like 18, 19, 20, 25, 30 even, I really tell people you need to learn how to struggle. You need to be able to go sit, not see anything and everything like that. Because when you do start having success and you start killing deer and everything like that, I think you start to take it a little bit for granted, and then you get a little maybe complacent or whatever. But when you do have that season where you're either struggling or you're targeting specific deer or a specific buck or age class, when you sit 40 something times and you and this buck are just on two different pages or whatever the case is, like, you're not just going to quit. You're like, all right, this is fun right here. And that's what I'm doing. I'm having fun right now. As much as it's the pain in the butt, and it does get frustrating. Like, last year is just, I could not have asked for a season to go better last year. Kind of what Peyton's having this year, But, I was telling Bianca, and I was like, damn, I think I'm at 40 something hunts. I don't even think I got to 40 hunts last year. I think I maybe just got to 30 hunts, and that was with including waterfowl hunts as well. So with the deer hunting, like, I was on hunt 9 and I was already tagged out, I think, last year, if I remember correctly. Killed a bear, killed a bunch of ducks. I had a very successful year. And this year, I've had a pretty successful year. Like, I did what I said I wanted to do. Now I just need to close the last chapter. Like, I am 98% there. Me and this buck, if he's still alive, we are just on different patterns. I've done everything right. I found where he is, besides being able to go onto the private property. I'm pretty sure he's bedding, and he's consistent. I found his rub. I got 3 or 4 cameras on him. It's just, the days I decide to go to work, he decides to daylight. So it's just one of those things. So, like, not much has gone for me in the last 2 weeks, but chasing this one deer, but I'm having a hell of a time. I passed up a nice potential buck that I am telling you, if he survives, he's going to be the number 1 and number 2 hitless buck for me next year, without a doubt. And this is in the same exact area. I just love the way his antlers are just. It's nice and in tight too, nice and narrow. They're kind of, honestly, look kind of like, when he gets bigger, they might start touching, and just body wise, he just wasn't there yet. He's a really good buck. I could tell he needed like another year to mature. But my heart the heart rate got up there a little bit. Like, it did. And it was a tough deer to kind of pass. Thank God he didn't give me any shooting opportunity, because he was kind of on me, because I soft bumped him walking in, and then also when I was in the saddle, he saw me, and then 15 minutes later he came back. And soft bumping, especially when you're hunting beds, do not think your hunt's over. Do not think your hunt's over. But we got someone special. Brandon, welcome to the show. Everyone knows him as Carolina Reaper on Instagram. Honestly, it's funny how I don't even know how this all started. I'm pretty sure it was Dave's live or something like that. It's something. But you are one of the funniest guys that I've yet to even meet in person. Just keeping the chat
Thanks.
always going, always live. But not only that, Peyton and I were talking before. A lot of knowledge coming out of your page as well, and
Yeah.
a really unique way that you hunt and you scout and everything that you do. So we're really excited to get you on, and everyone out there, we are going to be keeping this one short, but he will be coming on again for a more detailed episode later in the off season. But Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks. Good to see you, Peyton. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for having me on and squeezing me in. Yeah, it's always great to see you guys. And I've been following your page, Mike, and I was literally just looking at the buck that has like the kind of comes out like a blade on the one side. You know, I'm talking
Moose. Yeah.
Moose. Yeah. I love the look of that buck. I was taking a hard look at him, but yeah, everything's good here, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for the kind words. And likewise, I learned from everybody's channel, so I'm glad we're all connected. And this Instagram thing has been fun for me. I wasn't on the internet too much, and now it's been fun.
Nonstop.
It's been a great year. Yeah, I just use it like a journal every day. Like if I'm going out to run cameras or like the good, the bad, the ugly. Like I posted a video of skinning my knee once. Like it's just the daily log, like
Yeah.
sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
And I think that's what gravitates people to a lot of our pages. It's like, I'm not a big person. Like, yeah, I do follow some big accounts, but like I like the small pages. I like the unknown hunters. I like the person that has 50 followers but has been hunting for 50 years and can tell you every trick and nanny that he's learned through the years. And you, like you said, these pages, you learn so much from everyone, and everyone has a different unique style of hunting and has gone through something different or the same thing as you, and you're able to bounce stuff off of people that without social media we would never be able to bounce these things off of each other. I would never have met Peyton, never would have, we wouldn't be talking right now if it wasn't for social media and things like that. So like there is a lot to be thankful for with that, but it's fun, and it's definitely a cool journey. So tell us where you're from. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely been a really great journey. And one thing, just to kind of piggyback on that real quick, is one thing I've noticed is everybody does have a different style. And before I really started listening to podcasts last year and kind of doing my own thing, I guess I just kind of assumed everybody did the same thing. Sort of, I knew I had like my dad who always did his ladder stands, and I had a family relative who everybody else would get mad at him because he'd walk around through the bedding areas and try to do like his version of tracking, and he would just spook everything. And the old timers called that sanctuary, and the young timers just wanted to bust deer and shoot shit. So it was like, so I grew up kind of that way in the Adirondacks, where it was like the young guys versus the old guys. But moving down here to the South, I just kind of assumed everybody kind of had the same technique, which was ladder stands, food plots, hunting power lines, old railroad beds, things like that. Big, funnels between two bluffs, the type of hunting we did in the mountains. And then I came to the South, and it was just a completely different game. And I live in North Carolina now, near Raleigh. And even though I don't hunt in my immediate vicinity, all of my hunting places are pretty much within a 2-hour radius. But I can get to 3 states. Like my state, I can get to Virginia in 45 minutes. I can get to South Carolina in an hour and a half. So I have a lot of tags open to me. As you've seen, probably this year, I've been putting the hurting on some does and some other deer. But That's pretty typical, man. There's so many deer down here in the south. We don't have really any age structure, so I see a lot of you guys letting bucks go that just have me. I'd probably have 2 pounds on my trigger, but you guys are like, oh, I'll pass him. He's just a 140-inch 3-year-old, and I'm like, man, I kill a lot of good bucks, but I don't kill. You'll never see me talking about chasing 200s or anything like that. I mean, here in the south, we don't have the age structure, so I try to just get on some good bucks, and I try to get on a lot of them. That's my thing. Is kind of like growing up in school, I was always like either average or probably a little slower than everybody. So for me, I have to find a lot of bucks to make sure I can kill a few. So that's how you've seen me probably chronicle my year. But I think at one point I had like 15 or 18 shooters, and what if I killed two and I got maybe two more I'm hunting down. But when 18 bucks equals three or four, that's not very good. But that's how I have to do it. I just have to have a lot of options
No,
Yeah, that's an
I
interesting
love
way
it.
of doing it. Yeah, I like that a lot.
because I'm gonna
Yeah.
fail a lot. I just go find a
Yeah.
hell of a ton of bucks and just I fail and fail and fail and I stick one. I fail and fail and I stick one. It's just on to the next one, man. That'd be my biggest tip to everybody. Don't get hung up on a buck. Just go to the next one. Because once they
Yeah,
know they're being hunted, they're impossible to kill.
yeah, yeah.
That's a different
I
animal.
will
Yeah.
I will agree with you on that. And usually, this is the first year I've chased one specific buck. I don't know what it is. And, Peyton and I, we've gone back and forth of, we don't know if it's just the buck numbers are down, just, whatever the case is. We've talked to a lot of people and, things just have not compared to the years in the past. Like, it just seems like our numbers just aren't there for whatever reason. Could be HD, could be predators, could be so many different things. But I usually like to chase a bunch of different deer and moose. Talking about moose, he was the third or fourth deer I was after. He wasn't even the top one or two, but he was the
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
easiest killable, and he had the
Yeah,
best pattern. Um,
that's what I
and
do. I mean, I almost
it's
never kill
smart.
my biggest buck.
Yeah,
I'll kill the second, third biggest one, maybe like the fifth biggest one, and I'll be a 3 deer a year. Sometimes the 3 deer I kill aren't even in the top five. It's just, when it's November 18th, you don't turn your nose up at a 4-year-old. You just not when you
no,
have
no,
4 or 5
no,
tags.
Absolutely.
no, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely not. No, not a
I
4 year.
mean, not where
And
I live. It's not.
a 4-year-old here, and don't we do chase, and especially like if you look at Andrew's page and everything like that, Andrew's, we're chasing some giants down there and everything like that, but a 4-year-old deer, I really don't, I really wouldn't care. There's some 4-year-olds that are probably smaller antler wise than some of the 2.5, 3-year-olds that we have here, but I would much rather, I think, shoot that 4-year-old than I would that 2.5-year-old, and that body
That's
there
what
is
these
just.
bucks. Yeah, that's what these bucks are. I mean, I got friends that shoot huge bucks that tell me like those were all booners that I killed
Mhm.
early. But that where I live, yeah, I like to think I know how to run cameras, like for the most part, like not to sound that way, but I've ran a lot of cameras for a long time. So, I've been hunting for 30 years. So generally, I can, if there's a mature buck on a property, I can usually get him daylighting with just a handful of cameras in up to a handful of weeks. Sometimes, like they're tough critters, but I can usually get them. I almost get them always on camera. I'll figure them out. Maybe they're passing through rarely. Maybe they're living there. Whatever it is. But with that being said, generally speaking, I have to run here in the Carolinas. I have to run sometimes 15 cameras to find a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. So it's just so you have to cast such a big net to find. I say catch, I'm a fisherman, but to find a mature buck, a 4-year-old here, that's why in the last few years I've pretty much just like been growing my own on mock scrapes. It was an accidental thing where I would run a lot of cameras, I'd canvas large areas and find bucks. But in the meantime, my other scrape cameras, like I'm running 41 mock scrapes this year, and my other scrape cameras, they'll just last year's 2-year-old's a 3-year-old, and then all of a sudden now, well, damn, you know, deer we call Bruce Wayne. Now all of a sudden he's 4. He literally was just a spike horn. So like that happens too, where your local spike horn population grows up on you, and then all of a sudden you have a shooter nearby. So I grow them by accident. That happens, but of course on public land here with everybody getting 5 tags, or in North Carolina 2 tags, South Carolina where I hunt private everybody gets 5 tags, and rifle comes in August, so it's really hard to just find old bucks. But I run a lot of cameras for that reason, and I think guys that run 2 or 3 cameras and they can kill a good buck, you're a way better hunter than me. I'll go ahead and tell you that because I can't do it.
It's pretty unique, and I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm running a lot of cameras versus Peyton, and this is why I love having Peyton on, especially for this. Like Peyton, you're running what, 2 trail cameras and no cell cameras, and this is the first year that you're
Yep.
really running cameras, and he killed a really nice buck last year, and is just moving and grooving and stuff like that this year. So
Mhm.
like it's you get 2 sides of it, and I
Yeah.
think trail cameras, it's just another like tool to the arsenal, and I love trail cameras. Like I just love them. I love using them. You're kind of engaged
Yep.
all throughout the season, because that's kind of what we're using them all throughout the season, but when you are, say, you're going to a new piece, or and you're putting cameras down or whatever the case, what are you really looking for, and how long are you running a camera in a spot before you change, or something like that?
That's a good question. So it depends on what the objective of the camera is. So I have a really unique approach to following whitetails, and I I have studied deer for a long time unofficially. I'm no biologist or anything like that. I just want to throw it out there. But I guess to answer that, I'll digress to the camera thing. So most of the spots that I kill bucks don't have trail cameras. Kind of like my 10 point this year. This buck here on my tripod, I killed him in September 25th, and there's no cameras on that island at all. But I don't tell like I don't I wouldn't I wouldn't have that historical data if I didn't run Tascos on that island for like 4 years. So when people say for me, I guess disclosure, I have killed, out of all of the bucks I've killed a percentage of them by just walking in the woods and hunting hot sign, and maybe a rut funnel up north and things like that. But for the most part, I make strategic sits, and I do that off historical breeding activity signs. So when I was on that island, I was there for a reason. I don't need to run Tascos on that island anymore. I know when it's hot, when you need to be there. Like right now in November, everything's lost its leaves out there, and you can see straight through the island. It would be pointless to hunt there now, but there's a sweet spot. And so knowing that for whatever piece you're hunting, or the piece within a piece, it's if it's large public, the certain thickets are going to be hot at certain times and things like that. And that's how the bucks kind of move around. So with that being said, depends on what my camera is trying to accomplish. If it's um, a scrape camera, it's going to be a camera that stays indefinitely. So it's a cell camera generally, if it's within 2 hours of my house. And if it's not within 2 hours of my house, it's just going to be a Tasco, and it's just going to be for historical data. So, like, I'm going to have years of knowing when that scrape provides those mature buck pictures. And it's always, when you do that for several years in a row, you'll see a trend. Like, when to hunt this scrape Halloween weekend. Like, your ass is there because you have 3 years worth of pictures of, holy shit, that buck came through on Halloween or the day after. So I have that, and that's kind of how I set my early season hunts up, like the 10 point on the island. So a scrape camera, let's assume it's within 2 hours, and it's going to be a cell camera, and it's going to be year round. I have some solar panels and some 25-foot whips. I try to get my solar panel to the above the canopy, and I try not to service them because my scrape cameras are only bedding scrape cameras. So going in there is very invasive. I know you've seen me with my rain videos a trillion zillion. People are probably sick of me talking about taking advantage of the rain, but I don't go in there unless it's pouring, and I try not to touch anything. While I'm in there, though, I'll take full advantage. I'll carry a weed whacker, whatever I need to do, my leaf blower. But if I need to go in during the season, I want to be able to get in quiet. Like this year, I leaf blowed my trail after all the oak leaves fell, and now I can sneak in and sneak out pretty quietly. So, but I try to do that stuff very scheduled because that camera is going to stay there indefinitely. Now, if it's a fawning camera, I might move that camera 10 times in a month because I can't find where she's going to drop the fawn. There's some tells that doe will give you. They mark their areas where they're going to do their fawning, and they do some certain body language. And so one thing that I really struggle with is around when we come back, I'll go into more depth about it, but because it'll be that time, I'll be moving my cameras from breeding sign to potential fawning. So I'll be looking for those areas, and that can be tough trying to find a doe that's really sought this one location out where you think she's going to drop her fawn. But there's some things you can do to kind of sweeten those spots, like hinge cuts and some other things that guys have been doing for a long time. And you can create that kind of protection area for those fawns, and you can run. Like I have one where I fell 6 or 7 trees into each other. It's like a star, and I have 5 cameras around it, and like 2 does always drop their fawns in there. And so I do run fawning cameras. So to answer your question in that regard, versus one end of the stick where my scrape cameras are long-term permanent, I don't do anything other than clean bird shit off the solar panel and spray it with permethrin. Whereas like my fawning cameras, for Christ's sakes, I could move those like 3 times in a week and still not find a fawn. Like they're very mysterious little critters, and they don't move when they're first dropped. They hide, and so it's like
No, that's
I'll
something
see
I
the
haven't.
doe and she's pregnant. Yeah, and she'll come by a day later and she's not pregnant anymore. And you're like, huh?
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of
Yeah.
people running specifically fawning cameras. Like, what do you think?
hmm
Like, what do you personally like? What information do you gather from that? That sets it
So for
apart.
me, I gather it's all part of a data collection effort to identify estrus timing. So fawn drop dates can get you
Oh.
a ballpark area of when your doe was hot. So when you start to overlay information, like for example, back to the scrape, like okay, this scrape behind my house, always between October 20th and 11/5, I get all my big buck pictures. Well, then you're like, okay, so that's a Halloween scrape. That's when you hunt it. That's just, you don't hunt it any other time. Screw that scrape. You hunt it that week, because that's when you get your buck pictures, right? So you have 3, 4 years of that, let's say. Well, to further drill in, you can start to try to find where that doe is fawning and see exactly when she's dropping her fawns. That's not exact science. There's other things you need to do from there. But if for example, this year I posted an April 16th fawn that was half hanging out of the doe. Like she was literally walked past my camera like in distress trying to give birth to this thing. And so it was like April 16th. And so um if you can find some information like that, then for a fact, like you can do the math. And even though from there, that one piece of information isn't exact science, you can get a ballpark couple of 100 days, 2 to 15. Okay, well now I know she's an October 15th estrus or an 11/1 estrus. And so, because I guess the one piece of information that listeners should know is I'm in the Carolinas. So if you're listening to this and you're in Wisconsin, you're probably thinking, well, all deer come hot at the same time and it's November. And that's true where you have a winter, but we don't have a winter. So we start having does get hot in late August, early September,
Mm.
and you'll actually see those fawns drop in April, like I was saying. And then our main primary rut is just starting now in December. So most of those fawns will drop June 15th to July 15th. and or even a little bit later. And then January we have a later rut that takes place because it's like a trickle right here because it just keeps happening and happening. We have high deer numbers and they can't all be bred, low buck numbers, and we have early dropped fawns that when they reach a certain maturity, they come hot too. And so the rut just goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on into January. And so uh, you can identify the fawns that are going to become hot late season. So you're saying like, what's the fawning camera for? It's two things, two major tactics that I do for hunting right now because December is my rut and I'm just getting ready to hunt the rut. And so I'm about to hunt two areas that I know have fawns that are about to be hot. And one way I know one spot was that fawn that was half hanging out of the doe. I know to hunt there because that fawn's like 80 pounds and she's been hitting she's walked through the mock scrape a couple of days in a row, and she's like rub urinated but didn't, and like she's confused and she's been hitting the vine out of nowhere. And I think things are happening inside her. She's a big ass fawn. And so I'm about to hunt that scrape next week. That's the same scrape where the wide and the tall eight. I posted a post. There's like two different 8-pointers that are hitting the same
Yeah.
scrape. That's that scrape. So I'm hoping that I have that date nailed down for that area ballpark. And then the other one is a mock scrape I built because this summer I was out glassing for fawns, and I probably glassed like 50 fawns in the same day, and they were all like 50 pounds and spotted. And the last place I checked, I glassed, and a doe had 2 fawns, and they were huge, and they only had like a couple spots on them, and all the other fawns in the field were just spotted. So I said, "Holy shit, those fawns are like wicked old. They were twice the size of the other fawns." So I built a mock scrape there, and just lately I've been having both of those doe fawns have been hitting that mock scrape just this week. So I'm hoping that means those doe fawns are going to be kind of fired up, and because they're fawns, they're probably going to need to be chased. And I'm just hoping that the woods are awake and there's just deer to see. I got venison, so I'm just hoping for deer to see. Man, nothing.
Hmm.
I shoot one, I'll probably carry the rifle now and just be done with it. But
Yeah, yeah.
try
Wow.
to kill a big one. I don't get a chance too often.
I just want to say I'm so excited for when we record again
Wow.
and go into the details, because like the brain's like the wheels just spinning right now, and like I really like, and I saw it when
Yeah.
I saw Peyton's face kind of light up.
It definitely did click. Like I was that makes so much sense now that you mentioned that. It's like almost like, yeah, you figure out when they're born and then you know exactly when they're going to come in. And I feel like you talked about the trickle rut, and I could be wrong, but I really feel like that's kind of what we saw up here in New Jersey, and probably because the weather was so inconsistent. I mean,
It's more mild, yeah. There,
yeah,
it's New
and it was
Jersey
just
is
one,
not Burlington, Vermont. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it was like one day would be like 28, and then the next day I'm
Yeah.
pouring sweat walking to the stand in just a base layer. It's
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
I
it.
think a lot of it has to do with fawn survival, and it's like evolution. And if the fawns
Mhm.
are dropped a little too early and there's no grass to hide in, or if it's too cold and they freeze, then they evolve to drop them a little later. But one phenomenon I read about was like this urban thing that's happening where like these does are getting in these urban areas and they're able to drop their fawns like in grandma's roses, like in early season, and in areas like Long Island, New Jersey, Delaware. I've heard like a shift that's taking for like place based on like urban deer. I don't know if there's any truth to it. It could be just folklore. Like I said, I'm not a biologist, but it seems like if they're able to fawn and the fawns are able to be safe, they could evolve in the other direction. It makes sense to me, you know.
I
But
100% agree. And just looking at, I mean, people are always like, well, don't deer number are down in New Jersey. Yes, they've definitely dropped, but look at how many deer are on private. Look at how many does. And the
yeah,
spot that I'm hunting right now for this buck, the does, and there's about 6 or 7 of them. They bed where I'm at, but they're usually always coming from across the road, which private property. And Peyton actually, when we were looking at the map the first time I found the spot, he said this buck could easily be across the street down. There's a whole wood lot, and it's actually you got houses literally surrounding it, and it just drops right into a nice bottom. And I
Yeah.
drove all the way down there. It's a dead end, and and I'm literally looking this whole entire way, and it's just like literally just a bottom, and it just funnels right up. They come right across the street, and they go right down to public. They make a right, and then they go back onto another private. So they're going from private to public to private. Safety, food source, where I am on the public and bedding, private, which is more bedding, so it completely makes sense why, if they can birth on private and stuff like that, they pick up on these things. They really do. Like deer, they're pretty,
And if it's not terribly cold like Washington D.C., like sure it gets down to 5-10 degrees, but around that time where they're trying to drop an early fawn, April, May, it's really pretty mild. And if they can get like in a honeysuckle traffic median or something where that puppy's safe, like they'll drop. And then I think that can start, because here in the South, our rut is a really wide rut. And so took completely changing my entire game. But, and there's been some like a lot of failures that led to a few wins when it came to we'll dig into it, I guess, at a later date, but like finding where like super high stem count, like grass meets broadleaf. So if you can find like where grass or cattails meet, like greenbrier or soybeans, or super like trillion per acre stem count meets broadleaf, and then I'll do like some hinge cuts and stump sprouts right in that area, and usually I can get those to drop their fawns there. But that's one thing I probably struggle with the most, because those are, I think to some extent, like humans, like you can't always choose when you give birth. Why, I don't know if you guys have kids. Like I know my wife didn't get to choose, so you might say like, "Oh, I'm gonna have this fawn over there," and then you're like, "Oh, I guess I'm having it here." Like I don't know how it happens, but I
Yeah,
think to
no.
some extent they don't just flip a switch and have a fawn. I'm sure it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, definitely.
They
Yeah, they
hang
probably
around that
don't.
area.
Yeah, definitely agree.
So
Um,
I think about all that, when I go and I'm pondering those things, like, you
that's
know,
pretty so unique.
Yeah,
That
it's
is so
important.
like,
I, it's like that is a good point. It's like you have to think about like all deer behavior, not just like the mature buck behavior, because it all does relate to one another. And that's something I feel as though I've definitely learned, not as much to this extent, where I'm actually, looking where the fawns have dropped, but like it's to a much lesser extent this season, something I've started to pay attention to. It's like really thinking about like where I was seeing a lot more of those does in the early season, some of my other scouting. It's like paying more attention to that. It's like, okay, well, let me spend a little bit more time in there in November, when those bucks,
yeah.
as their behavior starts to change and they start to kind of, converge into the similar areas. So I'm paying attention to
And
just all
documenting,
deer.
yeah, and documenting those time frames when that happens. Because for me, I hunt a lot of little spots. That's what I always tell people. Like even when I hunt like the 900 or 1200 acre public piece, I mean, we can talk about like postseason scouting when the time comes. But I mean, I'll go to the 1200 acre piece and cross out 900 acres of it because it's stuff I'm not going to hunt, and I'm only focusing on like super thick bedding areas and bedding scrapes for those daytime scrape pictures. So, um, you know, uh, so for me, I'm hunting a lot of little spots. It's the spot within a spot. It's the bedding area within an area. So, 1,200 acres probably has 3 spots. I'm calling spots. 10 to 40 acre spots that are just jungle. The rest of it's open pines, standing hardwood, stuff that I'm just drawing X through, like ignoring. And so what I do then is those little spots within the spots. It doesn't matter if it's a 20-acre spot inside of a giant public piece, or if it's a 20-acre spot you got door knocking. It's still a 20-acre spot you're hunting. So that spot's timing is everything. And so that's what I've had to do that out of survival, because it's just like I'm hunting either small door knock pieces, or I'm in public where it's like pine trees. Here in the Carolinas, a lot of pine tree plantations where you can get down on one knee and shoot 2 miles with a rifle. And so like the deer don't like that stuff. And so I'll find the thick spot within those spots, and then I'll leave like some cheap SD cameras. And what you'll find when you do that a couple of years in a row, even like me, I went to public school and I still found that you'll just see trends like, oh, it's always the first week of November, like that's when they're here. And it might not be big bucks, it might just be the first week of November you're seeing dinks, but it'll be year over year. It's always the same time. So you just need to know when to hunt those little spots within the spots, because if you don't know when to hunt them, you're going to throw 30, 40 sits at it. And it's like, and then you're guessing, and that's a mental thing. It's like, man, did I miss it? Are my does pregnant? Because if my does are pregnant, I'm wasting my time. Like, are they already
Yeah.
pregnant? And it's like, you start thinking like that, and that's that's a tough game, when you think you're hunting pregnant does, you're like, damn, maybe I missed it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so I try
Wow.
to get that data ahead of time, so I know like this is the freaking thicket you need to be in this week, and try to. It's still all approximate, but I
Yeah.
try to not, you know, try to not hunt, because small parcels especially. Try to not hunt them when they're dead, because like behind my house right now is a ghost town. The leaves all fell off. I could shine a flashlight a mile through there. Like there are no deer in there. I mean, does, maybe a couple, but if you were hunting back there, you'd be a hurting camper.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. That all makes a lot of sense right now.
there's a time to hunt a certain place. Yeah, you just have to find it.
Agreed. I mean, man, it's gonna be a fun off season because
Yeah,
it's now you say it right. It's like a lot of things are just clicking. Because we Peyton and I talk there's spots that have just been like just dead.
they're dead
And
because the
there's
does are
a
pregnant or the food's gone and they've moved. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Those two things
So
happen. Either your does are knocked up or the food's gone.
yeah, and
And once that
I
happens, like
last
bucks are not coming to pregnant does. It's over.
no, no, no.
It's
And
over.
one thing I
Unless,
noticed on the hunt that I had the other day, and I forgot to talk about this before, um, I had some chasing late, and it was by a spike with you're talking about the yearlings that are probably just starting to come to the heat and just don't know what to do with themselves. And this spike
yeah,
was just chasing these a few yearlings just like all over the place, and they're making such a racket. I'm like, oh, like I want them to come, and they didn't come up by me, but like, man, he
yeah.
was on it, like nose down, just persistent, just running all over
They
the
do a
place.
loop of death. Yeah, they do a loop of death. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, like if you hunted any urban stuff, but I have
Hmm.
one urban spot that I hunt. It's 40 acres, and it's got a river on two sides, like the river bend. It's like an oxbow on two sides, and then it has a highway on two sides. And so it's like 46 acres of landlocked, and no mature bucks live on that piece. It's purely like there's only 2 weeks a year to really hunt it. It's early in October, which I couldn't hunt this October. We didn't really get into that, but I didn't hunt all October because of a lot of business stuff that was happening and family. But
Hmm.
I missed a week to hunt there in October, and then there's a week coming up in December to hunt there. It's pretty good. So um, so I know based on his past years' data, uh, when to hunt there. Um, I guess I lost the point I was trying to make with that, but the but for me, SD cameras in those locations. So I guess we can. You asked me about postseason scouting earlier, but for me, running a lot of SD cameras that I don't plan on ever really checking until next year is huge. And since I lost the point I was trying to make, I guess I'll say this. But I feel like I'm segueing away from cell cameras, because I feel like when I'm hunting with cell camera data, I'm always hunting a day behind. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that way, but I'm always a day behind. I feel like buck was there yesterday. I come and I hunt it, he's gone. And that started getting old. So that's why when I started falling back and being like, man, I'm just gonna hunt this other spot that I had this last year's picture. I'd kill one. I'd stick one, and I was like, well, shit. So I started to gravitate more that way, and so what I realized is like I think cell cameras have me chasing my tail a lot. So because those times where I tell you I keep the cell
Good point.
camera on those scrapes close to the house, slob shows up. I'm like, holy shit! Send a picture to my boy. I run out there, no buck. That's the story of a cell camera. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
missed
no,
him.
that's
That
You
is true.
missed
that's
him.
that's
You
pretty
should have had a
true.
Tasco there. You should have known when he was coming, and you should have been there for 3 days
That's
camping out. But
pretty
so
true.
I could preach it, and then I fall victim to it myself because it's hunting. But
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, no. It's listen, yeah, it's so hard. Like I love cell cameras, but you're right. You
I do
feel
too.
like you are a step possibly behind, and that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. But it's it's also you look at the knowledge and data that you can collect just by listen. My phone's been going off for the past like, you know, 30 minutes, and you know I know that okay, there's does there, there's a buck there. Oh shit, it's just a raccoon, whatever. If I'm going for bear or whatever
Yeah,
you're specifically going for, like you can collect this information. Now how the cells cams have it, you get you can put in your, the location, and now you have the wind, you have the temperature, you have the pressure, the moon phase. So it collects all this data, and what I do is I write all my stuff down. If a buck shows up on my camera in a specific spot, everything's written down.
yeah,
Okay, he showed up at this time.
exactly
This
what
was
I
the
do.
wind.
Yep.
This, yeah, yep. This was the.
That's
Oh,
how it
he
started for
daylighted this
me.
day.
But let me tell
Yeah.
you what, my friend, that's a slippery slope to be on. Because because what's going to happen is you're going to realize, okay, I did this with $3 and I had an encounter, and then the next year you're going to do this and you're going to get a few more SD cameras. You're going to be all right, screw the cell cameras. You're going to get a few more SD cameras. You're going to do it with $9, and then you're going to kill one, and then you're damn. And that's what started with me. And so now I run like 100 SD cameras because I get these Tasco 5 packs for $100, and yeah, I try to build my summer up where I like each season I'm letting a bunch. Like this year, I think I've let 21 bucks walk, and 11 of them were 3 years old. I did shoot one 3-year old with my pistol, a little 8 point, but that was my first pistol buck, so I decided anything with a forked antler was getting smacked.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I'm letting a whole bunch of other threes go, and I have those dates, and they were actually hitting those. A lot of them were hitting those same scrapes when they were two, on the same time frame. So that's what I do, man. I just try to build build up those, because what I have found is when you start to run a lot of cameras on a lot of small pieces, you'll just start to see like little pieces are hot at certain times, and the rut. People, I think the rut is like this red like tidal wave that comes through, and I don't think it's like that. I think if you look at like individual like porch lights turning on, like ding 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 ding, that's kind of like the rut, and it's like bing over here, bing over there, bing 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 bing. And I think there's a time where it's like it's crazy, maybe November. But I think if you slowed that down, you would just see where it's like these little thickets, like this thicket's hot, this thicket's hot, this thicket's hot, this thicket's hot, and it's just. And when you run enough cameras in those little thickets, you'll start to see like, oh, this is an October thicket.
Yeah,
No point in
yeah.
hunting in December.
No, that makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. Yeah, a lot of sense. And we've talked about it a lot. Payne and I, and the guys. Like, I don't think it's like you said. It's not just one thing where all of a sudden, boom. These animals, they're not all synced, and but just like we see the bucks start chasing well before usually the does are
Yeah.
even anywhere close to ready. And I actually
Oh,
for the go ahead.
yeah. No, go. No, please.
Oh,
I remembered
you
my point earlier. That's all.
there was a couple weeks ago, Peyton. There was this time where I was having these two big does coming in, and I'm like, there's no bucks after them. Like, duh. They weren't ready. They weren't even in the heat yet. They and everyone's like, oh, the rut's here, the
But
rut's
the
here, the rut's here.
yearlings that are in that area, yeah. But the yearlings in that area, no. And the yearling bucks in that area are fired up. And the
Hmm.
yearling, and that, I guess, and so you just reminded me what my earlier point that I lost was. Something in my closet fell and I lost my point. It was the loop of death. I was asking you guys if you'd ever
Yes, yes, yeah, definitely,
heard of the loop of death. And so a good and I, now that I've identified it, I see it everywhere. Like everywhere I look, I see it. And this one property that was landlocked, I was saying, what I find there when like the 1 and the 2 year olds, like you're saying, this time of year, like October, when they start to get fired up, they'll just do a loop. I call it, it's like a zombie loop. Like they just, there's like this 146-acre spot. I have a mock scrape on all four corners of the property, because all four corners of the properties have a potential access point where a buck could cross a highway or swim a river. So I have a mock scrape at those four corners because just to quickly digress, my historical data on when those bucks show up to that tiny parcel, I want to know the first day they show up. It doesn't do me any good if I find out on the 5th day they're there. So
yeah,
I put my scrape strategic to make sure the buck hits it like hour 1, day 1, so that I can count that as real historical data. If he hits it on the 3rd day, I mean, it's not really very good historical data. So anyway, but so what I'll find is the yearlings and the 1 year olds will just do a loop from scrape to scrape to scrape around the whole property. It's like a zombie loop. And I think that's what your little buck probably was doing. Like I'll see a spike horn go by. A little while later, he'll come from the other way. He's
Mm.
coming back.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like this big loop around the whole
You're
property.
you're
But
right. Yeah,
they won't swim the river and they won't cross the highway. And
it's
there's no
weird.
mature bucks that live on that property at all because the doe numbers are so high.
Yeah,
So it's purely a 2 week a year hunt where mature bucks either cross the highway or they swim across the river, but they come in. I get them on camera like hammer bucks. They come in and they're there for like a week and they leave. They don't live there. It's like they're in and out. And so it's funny because I'll see what you're saying is I'll see those little yearlings and those 2 year olds on the loop of death. I'll see them
yeah.
8 in the morning. I'll see them 9:15, 11:30, 108, 2:50. I'm like, dude, calm down. Like, like the same spike horn. I'll
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
coming
yeah.
by. Yeah, yeah. But that historical data for the most part I'll ignore until they're 3. It's only when they like start swimming that river and they start,
Hmm.
real bucks start showing up, and then I'll start paying attention, because
Gotcha. Yeah.
understanding like that yearling loop of death doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
zombie on hooves, Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. You start trying
Um,
to historically date that, you're just wasting your time.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
The
definitely
little
agree.
things like that make a difference. But
For sure, and it's so unique hearing all this. Like it's definitely, like I said, it gets the wheels turning, and it just opens up a whole bunch of doors that I imagine our followers and everything like that, and even your followers, and everyone will be excited to hear more about once we dive really into next time. You know
yeah.
one more thing before we let you go.
Mhm.
What do you think is the most important thing when you're coming to, you're saying your rut's about to start, obviously you got scrapes, you got dough bedding, everything like that. What is the one thing that you're trying to key on at this point? Like, I know you said, each
Fawns.
what fawns.
2 scrapes specifically, 1 scrape that had the fawn half hanging out of her mother on April in
Hmm.
April. That scrape, I'm absolutely going to be super glued to that one fawn because I know she's about to become hot. She's like 80, 85 pounds. She's huge. And then the other fawns, there's a pair of doe fawns that I'm planning on hunting. It's going to be probably the other 50% of my time. And I glassed them up. I was glassing all summer. Everybody's probably glassing bucks. I was glassing fawns. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I glassed up probably 500 fawns to find this pair, and I found them, and they were very early fawns because, like I said, it was around August 1st. They were only had spots on their ass end, and everybody else had spots everywhere. So
Hmm.
that's my whole jam. If I'm gonna hunt this time, I'm gonna be on some young does that I know are about to be hot, because it's tough to hunt the older does not knowing if they're already pregnant, or if the really old does tend to just go to the buck and they don't really need to be chased because they've done it
Hmm.
so many times. So, I've seen that where an old doe just kind of takes her fawns to the food plot and then she leaves and goes to the buck. And so I like the young does. So that's what I'm going to be on, dude. I'm going to be on
Yeah.
some doe fawns the next 2 weeks. That's my jam.
And with that, that's kind of more of a South thing,
Live bait.
you know, just because, like you said, in the colder weather, it's a lot more difficult to I guess, monitor, and also to really, those probably does probably they're born probably I don't even know, late. It's so hard because the South is so much different than, you
Mm.
know, up north
That's
or
why
the Midwest
you
and
really need that
California. Like,
fawning. Yeah, you really need that fawning intel. That's why, like, when we meet again, I'll be just moving
yeah,
cameras. I'll be going to get. They'll be dead by then, and I'll be pulling those cards, getting those breeding activity dates that I'm missing right now. Everything that's happened this year, chasing and tail
yeah,
cupping and rub urinating and does hit rubs too. I got a couple of rubs where I've showed some pictures where the does will hit them too. They'll rub their heads on them, and so
yeah. I've
activity
had
like
that as
that,
well.
man.
Yeah.
So I'll go retrieve those cards and move those cameras. It'll be January and February, so at that time it's going to be really easy to find where those does are going to be trying to drop fawns. I
Yeah.
mean, the woods are bare, especially up north where you guys live. Like, there can't be that many thickets where
No,
you
no,
know
we have
where
a
you
we
could
have
throw a pumpkin and lose the pumpkin. I mean, that's what you're looking for.
uh
If you
we're
can
in some
throw a pumpkin
swamps.
and then have to search to find the pumpkin, that's good fawning area. If you
No,
can throw the pumpkin and
I
see
think
it,
we could
it's not good. Yeah.
I think we could find where I
It's
can't speak for
definitely
the whole
less.
estate.
It's definitely less where we're at. And Mike, I texted you this the other day. I went in to pull cards on Friday, and I just know I hadn't been in the woods in Jersey in a while. And I noticed it's like all those rest of those leaves are gone. And I'm like, when you start to say like places you can shine a flashlight and go a mile, I'm like
Yeah.
thinking like, yeah, that is true. And like as you're talking, the wheels are turning in my head. I'm thinking like might actually, in a crazy sort of way, get a little bit easier because they're gonna have to be more concentrated if they are living on the public to some of
Exactly.
those like those cattails,
Yeah.
Exactly.
those places, those greenbriers, those places where they don't,
Yep.
no matter the time of year, they're still thick.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. And
Andrew
both
says,
places that I'm gonna hunt those does are thick, real thick.
yeah. Andrew's favorite time to hunt is really now, is winter. He loves this time of year because where we are, like Peyton said, like, it's just so different. Man, during the season, we're in those swamps and those thickets, like, we can't see
Hmm.
anything. I mean, how many times, I would be texting Peyton like, I'm pretty sure I heard a deer, right? But I can't see anything. Like, I legit, like, they
Yep.
could sneak past you and they can be at 15 yards away from you and you would never even know because of how thick. And now at this point, boom, you don't
Yeah,
have
your
that. The
bedding
cover's gone.
zones shrink when the
Yep.
foliage, yeah, when
Yep.
the
And then food
foliage removes. And by
sources.
the time you get out there in January, yeah, and by the time you get out there in January and February, exactly, when you can find those areas where the rut sign happened, generally it's in the same, it's going to be like a grassy, cattaily,
Yeah.
high stem county kind of briery area, like usually the kind of place you could like kick a soccer ball and then not find it.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Last one, and then we'll let you go and we'll get a more detailed one. This is the one that we always ask everyone for their first time on.
Yeah.
What is your dream hunt? If it could be anywhere in the world, it'd be like a 2-week hunt. Money is not an option. Doesn't matter how much it costs. Where would it be, and what's your dream animal?
Yeah, so I have two actually. My main one is going to be a mountain lion, but I'm kind of nothing to take away from the guys that do it because I think it's awesome and I watch these videos on YouTube all night long. But I don't want to shoot one out of a tree. Um, I want to shoot one on the ground, fair chase with my recurve, and I know that's a tall order because just getting close to a lion on the ground is, they're no joke. You almost
Definitely
have to
is.
be in some kind of funnel where one's coming by you, or I wouldn't be opposed to doing like a predator call, like a
Hmm.
game pro or like we do with the coyotes
Yeah.
and the foxes. So if you could get a cougar to come into something like that, that'd be pretty dope. So I would love to kill a cougar on the ground with my bow, mano a mano, not out of a tree. And I would also like to go to Maryland and hunt some Sika deer.
Ooh, that's a
I
good
think
one
I'm
too.
gonna
We
try to
talked
do
about
that.
that a lot.
So one, I'm gonna try to do in the next couple of years. The Sika deer thing, I'm gonna try to make happen. I'm 46. The cougar thing probably sailed, but we'll see. You never know. Ted Nugent's out there doing it. He's
Yeah,
70, so
right, right. There's a lot
never
of
say
guys out
never.
there's a guy that we get on Lusk Archery Outdoors. He does all the broadhead testing. I mean, this man, he's
Yeah,
always out, and he is just in Alaska and all these places and everything like that. Like it's just it is a
you young
tough hunt.
guys have a big advantage. Yeah, you young guys that I've made friends with on Instagram have a big advantage because a lot of you guys are in really good shape, and I see a lot of gym posts and hiking a lot and shooting all the time. I'm just saying, like for me, dude, like I graduated high school in the mid '90s. We didn't really hear about health and fitness until the last 10 years. So, you know, we treated our bodies pretty terrible. So, some of these types of hunts, like high altitude elk and stuff, just seem out of reach for guys like me. But the guy like you're talking about, people who've been just health monsters their whole life,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. And then of
Yeah.
course you get your freaks of nature like Ted Nugent, who's just like drank whiskey and smoked his whole life, and he still does it.
Right.
So
Which
who
it's
knows?
pretty remarkable. He's still going.
Yeah, but I'll let you know. I'll let you know how I make out. I'm gonna be on these does this week, and if you guys can find some live bait to hunt over this late season, I love it. I like it better than late season food because everything here in the Carolinas is still green and herbaceous. So
Yeah.
you can't really plant a late season food plot here. It doesn't do you any good.
And another difference from, all our stuff is mostly dead at this
Mm.
point. So it gets even more crucial, but it's also easier for us and if you're out in the Midwest and stuff like that to
Yeah,
pinpoint where the deer are going to be
yeah.
because you need to go to that
You can
food
bring
source.
them to you.
Yep, and
Yeah,
you
if
can,
you're if
yeah.
you're a man who owns man or woman who owns 1,000 acres and money's no object, and you can just grow soybeans and corn and brassicas and all this other stuff, you just suck deer, like you vacuum them from all around. You
Yep.
just go into a low income area where there's no farming, and you make the only food plots for miles. I mean, that's like vintage Higgins right there. Like technique,
Yeah.
not to name drop people, but you go into these low income areas and you buy 1,000 acres and you just grow food plots and you vacuum deer for 10 miles and you kill booners. But like if you don't have the means to do that, then or if you live in an area where late season food plots don't help you because it's the Carolinas and everything's still green here. I still have persimmons falling in my yard. Like so, food plot's not going to do you any good if persimmons are dropping still.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to find something else to hunt, and that's where the does came from. I'm like, well, I'll take it to them.
Yeah.
They can't bring
Smart.
them to me.
Definitely think
Yeah.
that's going to change some people's like. There's a bunch of people I think when they listen to this, they're gonna be, especially if you're in the South and you're listening to this, like new
Yeah,
new
just
new
pick a bunch of
technique kind of.
thickets and run some SD cams, and figure out when they're hot, man. Don't waste your time
Definitely.
when they're not hot.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, Brandon, we want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It was a
Yeah,
absolute
dude.
pleasure.
Likewise.
Um, I can't wait till you get back on so we could really dive deep into. I know Peyton's gonna have a whole bunch of questions coming up when next time you're
Yeah,
gone. I'm gonna have a whole
yeah.
bunch of questions. We're really excited for that.
Trying
We
to do a
wanna
lace. I'm trying to do a scouting session, so I'll let you guys know. What state are you both in? Jersey and
Yeah, we're both Jersey.
I'm in Jersey and
oh,
sometimes
both
Maryland.
Yeah.
Well, because Dave and Chris, they're in the Long Island area, and they want to get together. Dave actually has a piece he wants to scout, a swamp. So I don't know. I was thinking maybe we could try to get like 10 or 15 guys and like do some postseason scouting. I mean, help Dave. We could, make him buy everybody lunch or something for helping him. But
I'm always in. I am always in.
I told him I'd volunteer. Yeah, I told him I'd volunteer my gas, and it's only 7 or 8 hours. It's not that much. I got hotel points and stuff. So, but maybe we could do something postseason, dude.
We are. So I'm trying to. We did an event last year. We're probably gonna be doing multiple again this year. We're probably gonna be doing the meet and greet and the archery shoot, but I think it should be done. We're just trying to close the place on a game dinner type of like event where we would be all at a place and everything like that. Kind of like speakers and everything like that, and just have fun and meet a lot of the people that we've had on that we haven't been able to meet in person and stuff like that. So that is going to be awesome. One of the options. Yeah, the people who are out of state, you guys are probably going to be the first ones to hear about this. Just because you guys are the ones that are gonna have to book if you guys can come. The Jersey people, you'll be after that, but yeah, definitely.
Have you guys ever been down to the Dixie Deer Classic before?
No, it is something that I want to go to. Yeah,
it's in Raleigh. If you guys decide to ever come down, let me know, man. I'd love to
listen. I've had North Carolina in the books.
It was great last year. We had 1.3 million people come through in 3 days. Jesus. And I got to chum it up with Hickok 45. I don't know if you ever watched.
Oh yeah, wow, I love
hung with him for a half a day. I helped him pick out a machete, and like, you don't know who you're gonna run into there. Like it's like every other Deer Classic. You're just shopping calls, and you look up and you're next to a celebrity.
That's absolutely incredible. But thank you yet again.
Cool.
Peyton, we're gonna you and I will wrap up, and we'll talk to you guys later, Rebert.
Yep, thank you.
Yep, appreciate y'all.
Thank you, man. That was really cool. Really cool.
Just like knowledge on a different level. Maybe really think about different things that kind of just like got me. It's like we talked about. It's been a long season. Maybe, and I know I've definitely been sitting the wrong spots over the course of the year, but it is trial and error. And like you said, it's like it's taken him years to get to that kind of knowledge base that that he's at. So, it does get me fired up to get back out there. I've had a little bit of downtime where I haven't had as much time lately to get out in the woods, for various reasons. So it does get me pumped up to get back out there, hearing that stuff and putting some new ideas in my head, on how to get it done on public land.
I think whatever we do, however we finish this year, whatever you decide to do with, where you're living or whatever, I think this off season for us is going to be really key, where it's going to open up whatever, and we have so much time to think and plan, but like the wheel is just like with just the finishing up winter bow, because we still have winter bow, and then to get into the off season,
still got a little gun season,
and but which we don't hunt, which I don't hunt gun, and I know you did this once, but like you're not a big gun hunter, so I
think I'll crack it out for Saturday.
You think so?
I think so, yeah.
Wait, you brought it home?
I did. I brought it with me. And I think I'm gonna bust it out on Saturday.
Oh,
and
snap.
I'm wearing it anyway, wearing the orange anyway, and I don't have any. I did plenty of bow hunting this year. I don't have any qualms with gun hunting. I don't think I'm not a bow only hunter. I'd say most deer are actually probably the only thing I do hunt with a bow. So actually for me it would be abnormal to hunt with a bow. I'd hunt waterfowl with a gun, squirrels with a gun, turkeys with a gun. So
you never. Well, we'll talk about.
Oh, I guess just shot a bear with a bow. So
yeah,
forgot about that. Yeah.
I consider you a bow hunter, but all right. Before we wrap up, one thing I'm gonna do, I think on every episode, is I'm gonna eat something new. So I got all this wild game, right? So I have like kangaroo and like all these different ones. And this is the one that I'm really excited to try try because I love fishing for them and hunting for them in the summer. And we'll be
Turtle.
back at hunting them with American Mike this year. But I'm gonna try snapping turtle jerky for the first time. And I'm really excited. We're gonna be doing this from now on.
Oh man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I was actually talking to my roommates about this the other day. It was like things that we like couldn't get behind eating, and I think turtle might be something that I struggle with.
So it smells good. I've heard it's amazing. Like I've All right, so let's try.
Is it red?
Yeah.
What color is it?
Regular
That's
jerky.
not what I thought it would look like. I thought it'd be more like a chicken or.
I'm not gonna lie.
What flavor is it?
Just says it's doesn't give me a flavor, but says heat 2, sweet 5. So it's more of a sweet. Definitely a sweet. So it's not bad.
Where do you find snapping turtle jerky? Amazon?
American Mike's girlfriend went down to North Carolina or something like that, or Florida or whatever, and she picked this up for me. I sent her some money. But snapping turtle is good.
All right. I'll
Real
take
good.
your word for it. For now. I think I have to be real hungry to get a craving for snapping turtle.
I've seen them get clean. Pretty good meat. Like it's very clean. Yeah, you just have to, what Mike does, they filter out. So I actually put it on ice for a couple days and it filters out everything. And eventually the water will just be, all that filtered water will just be clear. And then they cut into it. But all right, guys, we've let this episode go long enough. I got to edit it now. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next week. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.